Rick, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Keith. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Thank you. The title of this podcast is going to be called Imprint of Honor. What inspired this was a recent experience that I had last summer, and I didn't think a lot of it. So I'll give you the background on it. Sina, who you haven't met, who has become a really dear person, just shows up with positive energy all the time, just very kind, very giving, and she has this infectious kind of personality and energy that people just love being around her. So I've had the opportunity to get to know her and her kids, and one of her daughters, who is happens to be a triplet, asked me to be interviewed for a as a military veteran.
Oh.
I was a little reluctant to do it, but she asked me, and it was for a school project.
Hmm.
So I said yes. It's part of like an academic accelerated program at her school. I guess it's all over the country, this particular project that she was working on. So we set up one day and here in the studio in which she came and she interviewed me. And, I was telling she asked me a bunch of questions about my military experience, where I served, different countries over the 4 years that I was in the Marine Corps. And I told her some of the highlights and some of the lowlights of that experience. And they were laughing pretty hard, but I didn't think much of it. And probably about a month ago, not a month ago, probably like several months ago, she sends me, the draft that she's written and asks me, is it accurate and to make, corrections and things like that, in which I did. There were minor corrections about the experience that I had in those 4 years. And I just put it out of my mind. One being that, while I served in the military, I wasn't Keith 1.0, Keith 2.0 in the military. I was definitely 1.0, like definitely 1.0. I wanted to be stationed somewhere else. I wanted to be stationed near my high school sweetheart. Uncle Sam sent me out to Yuma, Arizona. I was just suffering the whole 4 years I was there. I didn't have the best experience there, and it wasn't the military. It wasn't Yuma, it was me. But at the time, you couldn't tell me that that was the case. At the time, it was all these outside forces that were conspiring to make me unhappy, to cause me suffering. As a result, being Keith 1.0 and having a superpower as 1.0, I didn't just limit that suffering to me. I shared it with everybody else. So anybody who came in the military who was gung ho and ready to serve, I had them hating the Marine Corps within 2 weeks. And so because of that kind of behavior, it's 1.0. When I look back on my military service, I don't look back on it as this great experience. Now I got promoted on time. I passed all the physical fitness tests, all of the other things that you're required to be competent in and proficient. I did all those things well. Everything was right on time, promoted on time, the whole 9 yards. But it's my attitude along the way that was awful. And so I'm sitting here, fast forward 30 plus years later, and we're doing this interview and get the draft. And so about a month ago, I received a package of this bounded book of it, and it's got all these veteran interviews around the country, and mine happens to be, there's a bookmark on my page. I opened a page, Rick, and I got so emotional
Mm.
about it. Like it lists all the places. It had my photo from boot camp in there. It talked about all the experiences of, being stationed in Yuma, being in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Iraq, and all those things there. And what I reflected on is that there are some things about it that are true for me today. Said, although I didn't want to be there, I was still there serving. And it could have been a much better experience if I would have had a better attitude while I was serving. But nonetheless, I was serving. And it took this 13-year-old, teenager to help me reflect on that period of my life in a very fun way. And it also took this 13-year-old to helped me have this experience that I was able to let go of that part of me that I was disappointed about the way that I behaved then. And what I'm clear about, looking back with a lot of compassion about Keith back then, is that I was doing the best I could with what I knew. You know, all I knew at that time was, suffering, trying to control things. And as a result of that, that's the way that I behaved. Thanks to you and others and a lot of suffering along the way, I know better. And as in the South, what they say is when you know better, do better. And so now I'm doing better. Now I'm serving, but I'm serving with a completely different attitude and energy, and it's so rewarding. So this imprints of honor really made me reflect on that period of my life, but with compassion, but and at the same time have a lot of gratitude for the journey that's brought me to where I am now, where I am full of just so much gratitude for the service and the way in which I serve today. So, what are your thoughts, Rick?
Oh, Keith, what a wonderful story, and what an experience to have a 13-year-old girl get into issues that you didn't even know you were going to react to. And then when you got that bound volume, it was really a powerful experience to see who you were and how that compares to who you are now. I love that. And I think that's another message too about the importance of showing respect for people, other people, like a 13-year-old that we might not ordinarily think of as having earned the chops to get respect. But the
Yeah.
point is that respect that you showed her and the willingness that you had to cooperate with her in her school project, look at how that came back to you in volumes of learning about yourself, where you had been, where you don't want to go again, and where you want to be. So I think part of my reaction to this is it's clear to me that when we're open to other people and we're willing to show respect to others, even those that you may not normally consider or the society doesn't consider to be really worthy of the same kind of treatment as you give an adult, say, or give someone who's got a lot of money or someone that has some power over you. When you're able to give that kind of respect, it comes back and it's a reinforcing thing for your own life. The second part of what I get out of it is the gratitude. You know, you were open enough to look at where you had been, as you always are in these shows when you talk about things that weren't working for you in terms of your attitude, in terms of your impatience, in terms of your easy anger about other people when things weren't the way they are. And this was an example of a mirror. This was a mirror that was shown to you, but many people don't look at the mirror and take the lesson. You were grateful for seeing what you had been in the Marines, and you were grateful to learn from this young girl how it was that you had changed. And you were able to sort of digest that and put it all together with this single experience. And that is incredibly honorable, but it's typical of who you are.
Wow, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it I responded to it differently than I thought I would. I mean, it was complete surprise to me when I got the package in the mail, and just really grateful, and I'll just leave it there, just full of gratitude for that experience. So, Rick, thank you for a great show.
Thanks for sharing that story, Keith. That's really important for people to hear.
Thank you.